is Catherine, C-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E. My last name is Zipf. It's Z as in zebra, I, P as in Peter, F as in Frank. Yeah, that? Okay. I am the Executive Director of the Bristol Historical and Preservation Society. The Bristol Historical, I come bearing a letter from on behalf of the board of the Bristol Historical and Preservation Society. It is the same letter we have presented to all three boards in our objection to this project. In your case, we object specifically to the granting of the height variances, which we feel will have the most detrimental effect on the historic district. It is the historic district that is the historic asset. Just to make that clear, there is no historic content on the lot at all that we feel is necessary. I have another copy of the letter. I'm sure it's in all your records. I did bring another copy, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I am not really authorized to speak on behalf of the...
If you've got the letter, I mean, we're not sure. It'd probably be better if you provided us.
I have it right here.
Okay.
Just didn't know if you need it here.
Sure. Let's make it an exhibit, that way we know for sure. That will be exhibit F, as in Frank.
Excellent. I'm happy to answer any questions as the Executive Director of the Bristol Historical and Preservation Society to the best that I am able to express the board's position on this matter. I'm happy to do that. And I'll pause for a second to ask, does anybody have any questions on that? That's okay. Okay, because I would also like to speak as a citizen and resident of Bristol, Rhode Island. So my name is Catherine Zipf. I live at 32 Greylock Road here in Bristol. I have an undergraduate degree in design science from Harvard University. I have a master's in architectural history and a PhD, master's of arts. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Design Science from Harvard University. I have a Master's of Arts in Architectural History from the University of Virginia, and I have a PhD also in the History of Architecture from the University of Virginia. I have been one of 7 experts in historic preservation and architectural history that has consistently, I think I might be the last one standing tonight. I have 20 years of experience in, which I know doesn't look right, in historic preservation and architectural history. I have lived in Rhode Island for the last 16 years and 15 here in Bristol. I am raising my 2 daughters here, and they do go to public school, which I think should suggest, I hope, commitment to this wonderful community. The 2 things that I wanted to address from that point of view of expertise is the size of this building and the impact that it will have on this historic district. The impact is twofold. One is the total, frankly, demolition of the experience of coming to Bristol from the waterfront. Lately, there have been tremendous efforts on the part of the town and its citizens to invest in that part of town, with the ferry arriving, with the completion of the boardwalk, and with the cladding buildings. It is a whole different experience now coming into Bristol from the waterfront, which you can now do, and which I will also suggest you could do historically. If we put a building that has no street presence that on that lot to that height and width, it will block the view of the most significant corner and intersection in Bristol, which is this intersection of Hope and State Street. You can't see any of what's behind it once there. And go stand, I would encourage you, if you have not done this already, go and stand on the State Street dock where the ferry lands and see what they will see as they come in off the ferry. And imagine what that building is going to look like. So the view sheds and the experience of this district will be forever marred by the presence of this building. Flip that around to the other side and now imagine what that's going to look like from Hope Street, because I think we've really, by this point, ad nauseum addressed the issue of what it's going to look like at State and Thames. But this is also going to have a detrimental effect on what our district looks like from the Hope Street side as well. You will be able to see it from the Bristol Oyster Company. You will be able to see it from Roberto's. You will be able to see it walking down. I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast. You will be able to see that building from the Bristol Oyster Company, from the terrace there. You will be able to see it between the cracks in the buildings on Hope Street between Belvedere and the two remaining buildings after that. And you'll be able to see it coming down State Street from High Street. This building will be inescapable. We will have this building in our midst, in the heart of our historic district, forever and ever. Please give that consideration as you think about whether to grant the height variances. The second thing I would like to quickly say from my expertise is why I came to Rhode Island. I was brought here to survey the Lower Thames, or the Southern Thames Historic District, which was the only piece of Newport that had not been historic district before. And I was brought here in 2003 to complete that survey. And that involved climbing around the wharves and waterfront from basically Perry Mill southward. And I was working with a group of students at Salve Regina at the time, what we discovered was precisely what had happened to Newport once decisions like this one before you were made and those buildings were allowed to be built. Warren is a wonderful town. I think they're doing a great job up there. That is not what this project endangers. Newport is the model of what could happen here if buildings like this are allowed to be built in Bristol. Newport, wharf after wharf after wharf, the historic buildings, small-scale historic buildings have been leveled. Multi-story condominiums have gone in. They have disconnected the town from its waterfront, which the town is now striving to fix and can't. The last, I just read it in the paper a few weeks ago, the last historic wharf down towards the bottom of the district is now being leveled. And worse than that, the wharfs are being wharfed out further. And these large buildings are putting even more distance between the waterfront and the historic downtown. I'm afraid for myself, for my daughters, for my community, that that is what will happen to Bristol. I love Bristol. I love its history. I love that it is a middle-class working community and remains a middle-class working community. I do not want what Newport has. I don't. And please, please don't do that to us. I know you won't. I have faith. It's been a long night. Thank you very much for your service this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against? Closing arguments? Sorry, we can both wrap it up.
Yes, I think, how about 10 minutes each for closing arguments?